Hi, I'm Angela, and today I'm at Autumn Breeze Dairy, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about feeding a dairy calf. And so I'm actually at the calf barn right now, so we have all the calves in here, and I'll just discuss, we also have cats. I'm going to discuss a little bit about how we feed calves, especially on a dairy farm, from when they're born to about weaning age. So the first thing that you're going to do when you get a newborn calf is, obviously, we're going to move them into the calf barn. And this is the calf barn right now. And we're going to move them into a dry, clean pen. Notice that these pens are actually very dry and clean and bedded in. And they're plastic panels, so you can easily wash them off to prevent germs and bacteria from growing on them, just spreading from calf to calf. So we move them into a separate, clean pen for themselves. Another thing that you're going to want to do right away is feed them about 4 quarts, at least 4 quarts of colostrum right away. And what colostrum is just the immediate milk from the cow after she has her calf. And that milk has what is known as antibodies in them. And antibodies, one of them being immunoglobulins, is a very, very large protein. And a calf's immunity to diseases and things is not present when they're born. They have to get it through passive immunity through their mother, through the milk. And the mother makes it through via her bloodstream and then transfers it to her milk, to her calf. And so we have to feed about 4 quarts at least. I would say usually what we do here at Autumn Breeze Dairy is at least 1 hour after birth. I'll try to get that colostrum in them. One thing that you need to know about colostrum is that those immunoglobulins are very, very large proteins. And so a calf's intestine has these large openings within it. Hey, Lenny. And these large openings are only so big for so long. They start closing after 24, immediately after they're born. So you want to get these immunoglobulins absorbed into the small intestine before those openings close, and then you can no longer receive those immunoglobulins. Another thing right after they're born is we're going to dip the navel in iodine. By dipping the navel in iodine, you're going to prevent infections from infections as well. About 3 days you're going to feed colostrum to the calf, and the reason, even though you're not absorbing immunoglobulins yet, you still want to promote good immune system and good gut health. After that, we're going to move on to after day 3. And after day 3, what you're really going to want to do is provide them with a good calf starter. And when I mean like calf starter, this is an example of good calf starter. And what this does is it provides nutrition so you can have them get more nutrients in them instead of just milk, because we only feed milk about twice a day. In addition to this, it just helps develop the rumen, because a calf has 4 compartments in their stomach, one being the abomasum, which is the one that's first used, and it's more like a human stomach. And the second one, we have rumen, which is underdeveloped, which is the main one in dairy cows, the reticulum, as well as the omasum. So basically what the calf starter does is provide them with additional energy and nutrients to grow, and also to help stimulate that rumen to develop so they can become good, well-producing cows in the future. In addition to this, you want to provide milk replacer. And here at Autumn Breeze Dairy, we feed milk replacer twice a day. And it comes in this powdered form, and we mix it with hot water. There it is. About 100 degrees Fahrenheit water is about good for calves. And the thing with calves is that you want to have consistency. The same amount of milk replacer fed each day, the same time fed each day, and the same amount of milk each day. They like consistency. So that's the number one thing in getting calves started and getting going. So you do that for that's the 3rd day after you give them colostrum. That's basically our repertoire for what we do here at Autumn Breeze Dairy. So once we get them going on calf starter, a lot of times we use these plastic bottles to get them started on calf starter so they learn to eat it, because they really, really like to drink their milk. They're just not big fans eating coarse feed yet, so that's just kind of a stimulatory effect. We also do a lot of transitioning here at Autumn Breeze Dairy. One of the things we do is when we transition them to milk replacer instead of their mother's milk, is I feed the bottle about a couple of times before I will turn them over to getting a pail. And the reason for that is I just allow their digestive system to adjust to the milk that they're normally not used to getting. And one main thing that I've learned through bottle feeding is you want to keep their nose You want to keep their nose lower than their eyes when feeding. So you don't want to feed a calf like this. You don't want to do that. And the reason for that is you do not allow the milk to go into the lungs, which is a bad place to go. And also it allows the esophageal groove to close so that it doesn't go into the rumen. And the reason for that is the rumen, again, is underdeveloped. So that's one thing we can go on. And basically, you want calves to gain a pound and a pound and a half a day, so they have to get going on milk replacer and calf starter right away. We want to get them to be healthy, growing, and aggressive cattle. In addition to that, once we get them to eating about 2 pounds of calf starter a day for about 3 days, and this is around the age of about 2 months of age, we do what is known as weaning. And weaning basically is taking them off milk. We no longer need to give them milk anymore because they're gaining a lot of weight. And so what we do actually is we transition them from milk replacer to warm water. They like warm water. Warm water because they don't have to spend a lot of energy warming up the water in their body, and plus they like it to be the same temperature as their rumen. So that's one thing that's very, very important. Another thing that I forgot to mention is when you feed milk replacer and you're feeding calf starter, you always want to provide fresh, clean water. Here at Autumn Breeze Dairy, we provide clean, fresh water 24/7 all the time, so they have available water for that. And especially during the winter, you may want to feed milk replacer 3 times a day. Especially during the winter, it's colder. They need more energy to grow, so you're going to feed them a 3rd time. Whereas here, we feed them 2 times a day normally, but in the winter 3. But we always, summer, winter, fall, spring, always provide fresh, clean water. One, calves, they're thirsty in the afternoon. They need to drink too, just as much as we do. They need to keep hydrated. Hydration is very, very important in preventing scours, pneumonia, those kinds of things. And it also helps them eat more calf starter. You know, they're thirsty, they can eat some dry feed and then have some water afterwards. That's just the way it goes. In feeding water in the winter, one thing that I've always noticed is that you want to feed water right after you feed milk replacer. And the reason for that is that so when the calves get up to drink their milk replacer, then you feed them the warm water right away. Obviously, you want clean pails before you do that. Then they can go back down and lay down and not spend that energy getting back up again to come get water later on in the afternoon, say if you did it in the morning. This way, they're up, they get their milk, they get their water, they get the calf starter, and then they can lay down and spend the rest of the day, you know, keeping warm and not spending that excess energy. And one thing that you want to note with bedding is you want to definitely make sure that they can be able to nest in their bedding, especially in the winter. They need to almost kind of nest in there. It keeps them warm, keeps them dry, keeps them clean is number one thing. Once we get them weaned, what we do is then we transition them to grind feed. And then we also start giving them hay. And we don't give them hay until a couple weeks later. And the reason for that is definitely for allow the rumen to develop. That calf starter and that grind feed scratches the rumen wall and begins to have developed blood vessels, and so they get the rumen papillae growing, and so then they can have a functional rumen as cows. And then we give them hay. There's been lots of studies showing that if you give an animal just milk and hay, the rumen will be smooth looking. If you give them milk and grain, they will actually develop that rumen, and it'll have papillae, and it'll be able to absorb nutrients much better as cows. So that's one of the things. That's pretty much in a gist from weaning, from being born to weaning for calves here at Autumn Breeze Dairy. There's just a couple of hints that I have in addition to this. One is you want to make sure you have clean utensils. Make sure you wash and scrub nipples, bottles, pails especially. Get rid of any moldy or old feed. Calves will not eat moldy feed. They will not eat old feed. They like fresh, and consistency is key. There's especially preventing scours. Scours is number one thing in calves that can occur, and you can lose a lot of money, lose a lot of gain per day if they are not being well taken care of. So key is the consistency. Cleanliness, clean pens, clean bedding, and especially good ventilation. In the summer, fall. Fans in the summer, you want to make sure that they're going. Right now it's October, so we don't need the fans, but we have the vents opening for good ventilation. So key is consistency, especially with calf feeding. And that's about all I have for you in learning a little bit more about dairy cattle feeding. I hope you learned a little something, and these boys and girls love seeing you. Each of them have their names. So hope you learned something, and welcome to Autumn Breeze Dairy, and have a great day.